Hey man, shout out to Disturbing History. We back again with another video, man. Y'all loved my KKK video, so I told y'all I was gonna be reacting to videos off of their channel. Now this is the execution of Saddam Hussein. Now I'm gonna be real. I've always heard the name, but I never knew who this was. So hopefully this video can be an educational video at the same time, while it's just like telling me what actually happened to him, how he got executed. But like I actually want to know the history of him, because I've just always heard the name but never knew who this motherfucker was. Obviously, if you get executed, bro, you must be dangerous. You must be a menace to society. You must be a menace to the world. You know what I'm saying? Now I don't know if he got executed by his own peoples or the U.S. did it. I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea who this man is. I just know the name. Y'all. But we finna check this thing out, man. If you're new, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Turn on post notifications to be notified whenever I post a new video. Let me know if y'all are rocking with my history videos, man. Because I enjoy them. I enjoy doing them. But I'm only going to do videos that I know y'all want to see. But let's check this thing out, man. Road to 10K.
On the 13th of December 2003, former dictator of Iraq Saddam Hussein was found. He had evaded capture since the start of the American invasion of Iraq, but was found following a massive operation.
Damn, so 2003, y'all, I was only 1 year old. I was only one. Like, it makes sense, but I don't really know who this is.
His trial was mired by outbursts, assassinations, and ended with Saddam and many of his former officials sentenced to death.
Damn.
It is perhaps helpful to start with a brief explanation as to the regime of Saddam Hussein.
Okay.
Saddam ruled Iraq from 1979 until 2003, when he was deposed by an American-led invasion. His rule was noted for an almost gangster-like administration and for his failed attempts to annex neighboring countries. The brutal Iran-Iraq War, which lasted from 1980 until 1988, claimed the lives of as many as 1.2 million people and saw some of the most brutal fighting of the 21st century. Saddam oversaw the use of chemical weapons against his own people, notably against the Kurds of northern Iraq in the Anfal genocide.
You said the kids?
Notably against the Kurds of northern Iraq.
I'm assuming he said kids.
In the Anfal genocides, where his regime murdered tens of thousands of people. Saddam annexed neighboring Kuwait, triggering the First Gulf War. An international coalition soundly defeated the Iraqi army. However, Saddam remained in power.
How?
The widespread torture of civilians, suspected backing of...
And that's my one, like, that's the one thing I just don't be understanding with, like, doing these history videos. Like, how does certain people still get to rule? Like Hitler's, you know what I'm saying? Like, bad people. How do they still stay, like, if you want to say, in office? How do they still hold that? How are they still holding their positions? Who is voting for these dudes? Obviously, you got the folks who ride with the person, who doing the stuff with the person, who are taking orders from him. But, like, who else? Who else is really riding with this dude? I don't get it. I never understood it.
In power. The widespread torture of civilians, suspected backing of terrorists responsible for 9/11, and his suspected development and ownership of weapons of mass...
He played parts in 9/11? Sorry, y'all. I know I'm pausing a lot, but, like, you have to understand, man, I'm doing my homework on this stuff. Like, I'm doing my history lessons, you know what I'm saying? So I'm really trying to learn this stuff. And I just didn't know any of these things. Like, and I'm talking to y'all, man. Y'all got to reply to me in the comments. I don't want to hear nothing about you pausing too much, gang. I'm asking you questions. Because I don't got nobody right here next to me talking to. I'm asking you. You know what I mean? Then they had parts of 9/11.
Responsible for 9/11 and his suspected development and ownership of weapons of mass destruction were the reasons given for the controversial Second Gulf War. In March of 2003, an American and British-led invasion sought to remove Saddam from power. Those within his inner circle and those who had assisted in the brutal regime were targets too for removal. As part of the kit provided, American soldiers were given a standard deck of cards detailing the 52 most wanted members of Saddam's regime. This was to help American soldiers identify key and wanted members of the regime. The most wanted were found on the high-value cards, being the aces and the kings. Saddam himself was found on the ace of spades, being the most wanted.
For sure.
When the capital of Baghdad fell to the American control in April, Saddam could not be found. There were unfounded and unverified sightings of the dictator, but nothing led anywhere. There would be sporadic recorded messages from Saddam distributed to encourage his forces to continue the fight and denounce the invaders. One notable example is following the deaths of his son Uday and Qusay. In a taped speech, he honoured the deaths of his sons, calling them honoured martyrs, and stating that he would be proud to offer 100 more sons to defeat the American forces. Operation Red Dawn was the name given to the hunt for Saddam Hussein. The 9-month hunt saw hundreds of soldiers conduct...
Man, why can't we all just get along? Like, why? Why? It don't matter where you're from, bro. Why can't we all just get along? Why countries gotta be going against each other, bro? Like, I just never understood this shit, bro. I never did, bro. I never will.
For Saddam Hussein. The 9-month hunt saw hundreds of soldiers conduct hundreds of raids. Intelligence officers began targeting lower-ranking functionaries, the likes of cooks, bodyguards, and drivers and their families. These kinds of people were targeted for details as to where Saddam might be hiding. The goal was to narrow down the areas where he could be hiding, with his birthplace of Tikrit being thought as a likely location.
Nah, he wouldn't be
there. It would
there.
not be until December of 2003 that a breakthrough was reached. One of Saddam's former drivers divulged the name Mohammed Ibrahim Omar al-Muslit, otherwise known as Saddam's right-hand man. Al-Muslit's family were located and interrogated, allowing intelligence officers to then locate and interrogate the man himself. The American forces were told of a farm in Ad-Dar, only a short drive from Tikrit. On the 13th of December 2003, around 600 members of the Elite Special Operations Task Force Team 121 and the 1st Brigade Combat Team of the US Army's 4th Infantry Division set out to locate Saddam at the farm. His 2 remaining bodyguards attempted to flee, though they were soon captured. After a long search of the area, Saddam was located in a spider hole. The entrance was camouflaged with a rug, bricks and dirt, and was a space only a few feet long. When the troops opened the trapdoor, they were met with a bedraggled Saddam wishing to surrender. He was found with $750,000 in $100 bills. He was armed with a pistol and an AK-47, yet no shot was fired. There is a photograph of Saddam's capture, which shows an Iraqi-American interpreter named Samir holding Saddam on the ground. This man reportedly punched Saddam in the face and cursed him for the murder of his uncles and cousins, and the imprisonment of his father, a punch that I imagine felt rather satisfying. Saddam was arrested and designated as a prisoner of war, as the head...
These dudes flicking up with him is a little crazy, though. I'm gonna just be honest. Like, them taking pictures of them, you know, homie in the first picture just like, yeah, I just socked him. And then homie right here is a little crazy. This picture's a little insane, bro. Like, it's a little insane, man. Y'all captured him. All right, cool. What are we taking selfies for? What are we taking selfies for?
Of the regime's military. He was taken to the Baghdad International Airport, where he underwent a medical examination, which controversially was broadcast as proof of his arrest. It showed a disheveled Saddam with overgrown hair and an unkempt beard. This was met with criticism, as it was seen to humiliate the dictator and potentially be a violation of Article 3C of the Geneva Convention, which prohibits outrages on personal dignity. In Article 13, it states that prisoners of war must be protected against insults and public curiosity, which the broadcasting of the inspection could have breached. Saddam was put on trial in the Iraqi Special Tribunal, a court to pass judgment on the regime's key members for crimes committed against the Iraqi people. From the start of the trial, Saddam denounced its legitimacy. He called American President George W. Bush a criminal, stating that the trial was only a way for Bush to succeed in his re-election. During the trial, Saddam's lawyers were routinely assassinated, with many working from outside of Iraq for fear of their own safety. The actual safety of the trial brought into question whether it could ever be considered a fair or effective hearing. In the end, Saddam was sentenced for the murder of 148 Shiite Muslims in the Dujel massacre. This massacre was a retaliation for the attempted assassination against Saddam, and proved to be the crime which he was sentenced to death for. On the 5th of November 2006, he was sentenced to death by hanging. Upon receiving his sentence...
By who? By who? The U.S. don't do that? Am I tripping? Did I hear that right? They said that he was sentenced to death by hanging. Who was hanging? What?
6. He was sentenced to death by hanging. Upon receiving his sentence, Saddam shouted, "Long live the people, long live the Arab nation, down with spies, God is great." Saddam attempted to...
And folks be trying to play that God is great stuff, or just like trying to use God and stuff like this, bro. I'm telling y'all, bro, God don't support that. He don't support that. He don't support anything you did. I don't know what God you're talking about, but not the one that most of us folks believe in. Not the one that his words are in the Bible. Like, what God are you talking about, bro? What God are you talking about? To all these criminals who be doing stuff like this, all these leaders and shit, like, what God are y'all talking about? What God? I don't understand. Like, all right, bro.
Appeal his sentence, but on the 26th of December 2006, his appeal was rejected, with moves to execute the dictator as soon as possible.
Jeez.
At American base Camp Justice, Saddam was to be hanged. On the 30th of December 2006, balaclava-clad executioners led Saddam to the noose and placed it over his head.
Jeez.
Amid the chanting of slogans, insults, and prayers read from the Quran, the former dictator dropped
this is actually
to his death. His final moments were captured on mobile phone, the opening of the trap door, his body swinging and neck twisted. Saddam's body was then flown to his birthplace and buried in the dead of night. The death of Saddam was a footnote in the regime and an attempt to legitimize the new Iraqi government. There were questions as to the fairness of the trial, leading plenty to believe that it was nothing but a show trial. And as for the little pack of cards I mentioned earlier in the video, not all of those in the deck of cards faced justice. The crimes of Saddam and his regime were many, and yet, whether justice was achieved, both for the victims and for Iraq, I will leave to you. But it is believed that Saddam's regime is responsible for the deaths of 250,000 people.
Nah, that's just nasty business, bro. Well, how do y'all feel, man? Do y'all feel like, well, obviously justice was served, but do y'all feel like he went out right? Like, do y'all feel like they should have hung, bro? I'm just surprised that the U.S. had anything to do with him being hung. Since when does the U.S. do any of that? Since when? I'm going to do a video on Osama bin Laden, too, because we know he's the one who really had his hands on 9/11. But since when were they hanging folks, bro? Since when was they doing that, bro? Hey, man. You do these stupid things, you gonna get these stupid results. No, that's just how the game goes, man. Rest in peace to all those folks that he killed, bro. He got killed. 250,000? Once again, I don't know what God he's talking about, or they be talking about.